Welcome to Matters Financial and Geopolitical from the Frontier. Thanks for stopping by. I'm still battling my tooth, but hopefully it's on the mend and I don't look so distorted. Macro thoughts, the safest haven. This is by David Inglis, Swiss franc apparently. Home thoughts, Sachin Rai, who obviously visited the Mara with the Mara Fairmont, tweeted a hot air balloon. I'm sure there are times when all of us would like to just get in a hot air balloon and just wander somewhere up there in the air. And then I like this from my new friend Sandy Zach. So true, Magadi Champolet is a particular pleasure, very dark skies. I guarantee LMC and SMC in all their glory. We've been talking about night skies and where the best places to go. One of my favorites was Serena in Elmantita, but again at the Tsavo, where it was cloudy most of the time, we saw this incredible view, and there are plenty of places. Lamu, I remember drinking, old pals on this veranda. You had the sea coming in beneath you, and you looked up and you saw the Milky Way. And on that point, regarding Magadi, this is a photograph I took of clouds reflected in Lake Magadi. That took me to Hafiz's poem. The sky is a suspended blue ocean. The stars are the fish that swim. The planets are the white whales I sometimes hitch a ride on. And the sun and all light have forever fused themselves into my heart and upon my skin. Lake Magadi is 110 kilometers from Nairobi, and it is a lovely place to visit. As he navigates his post-presidential life, Obama's speaking fees have hit the $400,000 mark, says Dealbook. Well, deserve it. Tsavo West National Park, do take a look at our little video from the Tsavo, the western corner, and Tsavo West, southwest corner. I like this photograph, Nouveau Livre, Ice is Black, Mon travail dans l'Arctique, disponible avec dédicace, Laurent Baeux. Excuse my French. Political reflections, all UN member states should remember it was the US who first declared war on our countries, said North Korea's foreign ministers, leaving Unga. And this is an extraordinary scenario, brinkmanship with a known brinkman, if such a word existed. My piece on the 18th of September, A Screaming Comes Across the Sky, was about North Korea and the risk therein. DPRK Foreign Minister said Trump has effectively declared war and Pyongyang has every right to shoot down US strategic bombers. This took me back to something else I wrote when I said, Kim Jong-Un has been precise and calibrated in his response to President Trump. It's easy to forget that as we listen to this constantly escalating rhetoric. And then I was saying he's in fact being ruthlessly logical, and he's speaking the language his adversaries understand very lucidly. When you view things from Kim the Rocket Man's perspective, you might appreciate that far from being illogical, he's in fact being ruthlessly logical, and he's speaking the language his adversaries understand lucidly. 10 million folks in Seoul, just 60 kilometers from the border, and 28,500 US soldiers are all in the line of fire. In this image, we see a US Air Force B-1B Lancer bombers fly with F-35B and South Korean Air Force F-15K jets during a drill. So it remains highly volatile. Neither principal is prepared to back down. They both feel like fire starters, and the market stays on tenterhooks. High turnout in Iraqi Kurdish independence vote. Despite pressure, voters were asked on Monday to say yes or no to the question, do you want the Kurdistan region and Kurdistani areas outside of the Kurdistan region to become an independent country? Turnout among 5.2 million eligible voters was at 78%. The Kurdish Rudor TV station said final results were expected within 72 hours. It's a non-binding vote organized by Kurdish authorities. In the city of Kirkuk, authorities declared a curfew an hour and a half before polls closed as people started to celebrate. Ahead of the vote, the Iraqi Kurdish authorities had been under pressure from a number of different governments. The US State Department said holding the vote in disputed areas is particularly provocative and destabilizing. After the vote, the US said it was deeply disappointed and called the referendum unilateral. There are 30 million ethnic Kurds living in Iraqi, Syrian, Iranian and Turkish territories, and that's the point, and that's why this carries an enormous geopolitical contagion risk into those countries. Iraqi Kurds, and this I missed actually, I must say, with my bearish view on oil. Iraqi Kurds export an average of 600,000 barrels per day via a pipeline running through Turkey to Saharan near the Mediterranean coast. Erdogan also said Turkey's Habur border crossing with Iraqi Kurdistan would be closed. After this, let's see through which channels the northern Iraqi regional government will send its oil or where it will sell it, Erdogan said in a speech. We have the tap. The moment we close the tap, then it's done, he said. And that's what the oil market has lifted the oil market again, I think. And I missed that sort of Kurdish risk. $600,000 barrels a day being cut off is going to make a serious difference, isn't it? The development in Kurdistan carries massive geopolitical contagion risks to Turkey, Iran, Syria, and not just Iraq. Iraqi Kurds fly Kurdish flags during an event to urge people to vote in the upcoming Kurdistan referendum in Erbil. That's from AFP. Erdogan says the Turkish army is at the Iraqi border and is ready to take necessary steps. So we've got a highly volatile situation. We've got Erdogan, who's been a basher of Kurds for eternity. I think it's going to be quite fluid, but obviously one of the first things would be to blockade the oil. That's why we've seen this very positive price reaction, which I really missed. Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed is seen meeting with the Egyptian President Sisi in Abu Dhabi in this photograph. This is the hard center of that alliance, GCC in Egypt. Bloomberg is calling it Merkel's hollow victory. Worst showing since 1949. Ceding ground to anti-immigration Alternative for Germany party, indeed. Salman Rushdie, in a very interesting piece in the FT, Trump is not a reader, is he? Anyone used to Salman Rushdie's brand of magic realism, fantastical storytelling he pioneered in the landmark 1981 novel Midnight's Children, may be surprised by his latest work, with the exception of one character, the Joker, who, like the baddie in Batman, terrorizes Gotham. The Golden House is a realist novel. The Joker is a thinly disguised Donald Trump, having haunted the comic book New York for decades. The menacing figure's fright wig finally turns into a crown. There is nothing magical about the Joker's victory. The Joker, his hair green and luminous with triumph, his skin white as a Klansman's hood, his lips dripping anonymous blood now rule them all, writes Rushdie. Batman is banished, caricature horror has turned into reality. What need of fiction when, as one of Rushdie's characters puts it, society now resembles a lurid graphic novel? Sounds worth reading, doesn't it? And a lot more interesting, it's a very interesting interview, I must say. Talking about the UK, he says it's in denial. People think Brexit is going to be fine, but actually it's not. It's like the country is having a picnic on a railway line and paying no attention to the hooting noise in the distance, he said. That's an interesting point as well. And then I sense Rushdie's not being entirely frank about his British decades. He's unhappy about a couple of things. And then it took me back to one of my favourite quotes of his from page 206 in The Imaginary Homelands. Ours is the most cryptic of centuries. Its true nature, dark secret. Ours is the most cryptic of centuries, its true nature, dark secret. Steve Bannon. The GOP elites, represented by Senate Majority Leader, hold me in contempt. I wear their contempt as a badge of honor. On Fox News, as McConnell has committed economic hate crimes against working Americans. Oh, this war's going to continue. It's like the new normal. This isn't the future. This is the here and now. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau and Alibaba's technology for international trade. They make up over 400,000 who fled violence in Rakhine State, but they're also someone's father, mother, sister, brother, and much more. Gaydar shows how creepy algorithms can get, Bloomberg View, and this is going to be the future, isn't it? Artificial intelligence keeps getting creepier. In one controversial study, researchers at Stanford University have demonstrated that facial recognition technology can identify gay people with surprising precision, although many caveats may apply. Imagine how that could be used in the many countries where homosexuality is a criminal offense. It's frightening. A co-founder of Google's moonshot factory doesn't like to fire people, so he liberates them instead. This is Maria's trail of destruction as seen in Puerto Rico. Let's move on to the currency markets where we had some very big moves. Euro dollar, that's falling again, 118.32. Obviously, you've had this heightened political risk with the AfD, but also you've got Catalonia coming up. And I think this is going to take the wind out of the bull's sails. Dollar index 92.69. Japanese yen 111.68. Swiss franc 0.9681. The pound, which is showing enormous strength, 135.09. Australian dollar, let's take a look at what that is, 0.7924. India rupee 65.325. South Korean 111.36.75. Brazil real 315.87. And the Egyptian pound 17.6670. South African rand 13.3325. That's not making any ground up, is it? Dollar index, have a look at this 3-month chart. That 93.50 area, which I've banged on about for eternity, still remains very relevant. We can get back above that, but I think the dollar's put in an important bottom. We can't, we're going to fall down. Citi recommends shorting the euro. Disastrous election results in Germany have swung relative political risk premium back in favor of the dollar. Correct, 118.34. And then T Commodity, who's been wanting to short the euro and has been also posted a chart. And I think, if we're going to fall back, we're going to fall the right way back to 114.50. Commodity markets, Turkey using the oil weapon against Kurdistan, which I think was the trigger for this big move over the last few sessions. Brent crude has hit its highest level since July 2015, rose above $59 a barrel on Monday to its highest in more than 2 years, lifted by fast-growing demand and a threat to Iraqi Kurdistan's crude exports as the autonomous region holds a referendum on independence. WTI crude oil, take a look at this, $52.12. I mean, if we're going to rebound, which it looks as if the momentum is with the rebound, we can rebound as high as 55 plus 55.50. Gold, that's come back hard, 1307.87. This 1,109 carat Lesedi La Rona diamond was sold for $53 million. Sub-Saharan Africa, China is seen in this video staging its first live fire drills at its overseas base in Djibouti. This is the first time our soldiers stationed in Djibouti have left the camp to conduct combat training. The live fire training will help explore a new training model for the Chinese overseas garrison. 28th of August, I wrote a piece called China Rising, and I said apart from a few half-hearted and timid FONOPs, freedom of navigation operations, China has established control over the South China Sea. It has created artificial islands, then militarized those artificial islands across the South China Sea. It is a mind-boggling geopolitical advance. Any which way you care to cut it. China has advanced its footprint in Pakistan, where it has leased the Gwadar port, giving China and Central Asia access to the Gulf region and the Middle East. That's for 43 years. Sri Lanka, which gorged on Chinese debt, has had to disgorge the Hambantota port to its creditor. And recently we saw China formally open a military facility in Djibouti. And I said, when you take all these moves together, it speaks to a material Chinese advance. And I think that proves the point. A natural tunnel made of jacaranda blossoms in Sunnyside, Blantyre, Malawi. And my wife comes from Blantyre, and it's also, funnily enough, jacaranda season here as well. Mugabe has described the recent price hikes as the work of saboteurs. He says the prices issue will be dealt with in the next few days. Avrex and banks just slotted them $600 million. Obviously, a lot will depend on the availability. And the Zimbabwean pastor is on trial for subversion, and he faces a possible 20-year jail term. My piece over the weekend was reputational risk in a cautionary tale from South Africa. And what I was saying, the world is flat, news spreads like wildfire. What happens at the periphery creates real-time blowback at the center, before you can say Bell Pottinger, KPMG and McKinsey. And then I learned BNP Paribas is under investigation of its role in the Rwanda genocide, and another reputational risk issue. South African all shares up 10.24% so far this year. Dollar versus Rand not making much headway, tending to trade soft. The only 200% oversubscription from Eurobond really signaled there's some fatigue now, I think, in the minds of investors with South Africa. Egyptian pound at 17.667, it's been there for a while. Nigerian all share up 31.58% so far this year. Ghana Stock Exchange, that's up 35.34% so far this year. I expected a rate cut, we did not get it. Ugandans, this is interesting, overwhelmingly favour introduction of age limit for the president. Important step towards real democracy. That's from Simon Kustenmacher. And that's what President Museveni is fighting against, but my money's on Museveni. Kenya may face constitutional crisis over election impasse. Kenya is lurching towards a constitutional crisis as a standoff deepens between the two presidential candidates over how to manage a rerun of last month's botched election. Both sides have entrenched their position. Raila Odinga's opposition coalition has called mass protests starting Tuesday to demand the Electoral Commission is overhauled before the vote, while Uhuru Kenyatta's ruling party rejects any changes to the authority and says the ballot must take place by the end of October. The impasse raises the risk that the election won't happen at all, a situation the Constitution doesn't envisage. If the October 26th vote goes ahead, the opposition may resort to a constitutional clause to ensure the vote is invalidated. The Constitution states the election must take place in all 290 constituencies, and it only has to ensure the vote doesn't happen in 2 or 3 of its strongholds to seek another annulment. That's interesting. If the IBC was to continue preparing as if it's business as usual, it would be demonstrating it's operating without due regard to the Constitution. It would be an unfortunate scenario because then the stalemate will persist. This is something I've been talking about already. This whole issue that you've had the Supreme Court knock it out, but without giving any further guidance as to what's happened with the IEBC, other than saying if they do it again, that we're going to knock it back again. And that's brought complexity to the situation. However, I don't think these mass action calls have much traction anymore. There's fatigue, people haven't got money, and the risk is no one except for a few paid-for hooligans turn up. And at that point, it will be a major political hit. I see Jubilee winning by an even wider margin. Money mobilization is key, mobilization of voters is key, and I think on both scores they're going to work harder to make sure that they win it. Therefore, I expect the opposition to stick with its asymmetric response, degrading every institution and possibly a boycott. So going back, Bloomberg again, Kenya opposition plans mass protest to force out vote officials. Demonstration is the only language these people understand. And for us, it's not going to be a one-day event, Magadi said by phone from Nairobi. Tuesday is just the launch of the mass movement and will spread these demonstrations countrywide, they said. Very interesting article via Kenya Wall Street. It's a PwC report. Kenya entertainment media revenue to hit $3.2 billion in 2021. Nairobi all shares up 24.28% so far this year. It fell 0.11%, but there was lackluster trading, very low volume. Nairobi all share, it's up to, Nairobi NSE 20 is up 17.71% year to date. That fell 0.37% yesterday. Once again, I do thank you for stopping by.